Hello, welcome to the Learn with Sandra show channel. I'm Alexandra and I am so delighted to be your educational guide. So today we are going to be solving 20 questions from the 2024 government past questions for JAMB. Okay, so we are tackling 20 questions. So stay with me, don't go anywhere, and I'll be right back. Question 1. So the party system that Nigeria operated in the aborted Third Republic is dash. Now the aborted Third Republic in quotes means that it was short-lived. This is a constitution from 1992 to 1993. This is a space of just 1 year. So the constitution was not fully developed and established before it was aborted. Now this Third Republic constitution was meant to transition Nigeria from its military rule to civilian rule during the Ibrahim Babangida's regime. Now, the Third Republican Constitution adopted a two-party system, SDP Social Democratic Party and NRC National Republican Convention. The first Republican Constitution, which was from 1960 to 1966, adopted the multi-party system with 3 regional political parties. Okay, the second Republican Constitution, which was from 1979 to 1983, also adopted the multi-party system with 5 dominant political parties. Okay, while the first Republican Constitution, which has been from 1999 till date, has been adopting the multi-party system with 3 dominant political parties. We have APC, PDP, and the last one gained prominence in the 2023 election. Let me know what the political party is in the comment section. Question 2. Delegated legislation can be regulated through dash. Now, a higher authority can transfer power and function to the lower ones. Now, this enables the lower ones to create what we call bylaws. So, delegated legislation is transferring power and function to others. Now, I'm going to give an hypothetical example to answer this question. The National Assembly is Nigeria's legislative branch responsible for what? Enacting laws, right? Now, say for example that the National Assembly enacts a primary law called the Environmental Prevention Act. Now, this act grants the Federal Ministry of Environment the authority to make rules and regulations that will effectively implement its objective. Now, the Federal Ministry of Environment now decides to make rules and regulation, waste management rules and regulation, how to collect, how to recycle, and how to dispose the waste. Oh, make sure your waste is not exposed. Put them in a bag. This is the area all waste should be deposited. These rules are called what? Bylaws. Now, intuitively, which branch of government has the power to regulate these bylaws? Of course, it's the National Assembly that gives it the power to what creates the laws in the first place. Not the judiciary, not the executive, not ministerial. So, ministerial control may be limited to certain activities within public corporations. So, ministers have the power to dissolve board of directors in a public corporation. Okay, judiciary on the other hand can interpret law and they can pass judgment based on the rule of law. So it is the legislative that can regulate these bylaws. Question 3. The main argument against the 1999 Constitution is that dash. Abdulsalami Abubakar served as Nigeria's head of state from 1998 to 1999. It was during his tenure that Nigeria adopted the 1999 Constitution, which had features of the American presidential system. Now, one of the demerits of this Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, is that it is costly to run. The presidential system of government had separate elections for the president, for the House of Representatives, and the House of Senate, all of which needed costly campaigns. There was also duplicate administrative offices. The legislative and the executive would have different staff, and the functions were the same. There was also high compensations and benefits to attract qualified individuals. So all of this, added to the overall expense. Question 4. Which of the following is a basic feature of the rule of law? Rule of law is the supremacy of law over everyone in a political system. Rule of law is a provision made by the Constitution with emphasis on the supremacy of law, equality before the law, and the principles of individual rights. So when you think of rule of law in a nutshell, you think of equality before the law. Everyone is equal before the law. The president, the governor, the senate, you and I are equal before the law. Question 5. The collective views of the citizens on a specific national matter is dash. In 2020, many Nigerians expressed strong opposition towards police brutality, particularly the actions of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SARS). Now, this is an example of public opinion in Nigeria. So, public opinion is the collective views, the belief held by majority on a specific national matter. Now, the outcry of people, right, both online and in the streets, right, pressured the government to dissolve SARS. Question 6. The productivity of public operations is believed to be enhanced when there is dash. Now, the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, Nigeria Ports Authority, Nigeria Communications Commission, Nigeria National Petroleum Company are examples of public corporation, and they are owned by the government. Now, because they are owned by the government, there have been some noticeable political influence, such as mismanagement of funds, favoritism in appointments, and decisions are political driven rather than the efficiency of the services it should provide. So it is believed that if public corporations can have less political interference, it will be more productive. Question 7. NEPAD stands for dash. Now, Africans face serious problems such as poverty, poor governance, slow economic growth, and this made many African leaders realize that relying on foreign aid wasn't enough, and so they needed an African-led plan to drive development. Now, to solve this, four African presidents, Olusegun Obasanjo from Nigeria, Thabo Mbeki from South Africa, Abdoulaye Wade from Senegal, and Abdulaziz Bouteflika from Algeria combined their ideas to create a development plan. Now, this plan bettered NEPAD, New Partnership for Africans Development, and it was launched in 2001. Please note that NEPAD is an initiative of African Union, but these four presidents played key roles in its development. Question 8. Under the Hausa pre-colonial administration, the office of the Prime Minister is usually occupied by dash. The Fulani took over the political leadership of Hausa in the 19th century. Usman Dan Fodio led the war, and then he established the Sokoto Caliphate. The Sokoto Caliphate were further divided into emirates, and each emirate was headed by an emir. An emir is a traditional ruler who is responsible for making laws, implementing laws, and maintaining peace and order. Now, each of the emirs were assisted by officials, some of which include 1. Waziri. Waziri is in charge of other officials and is regarded as the prime minister. We have Galadima. Galadima is in charge of the capital. We have Madawaki, who is the commander of the army. Now, Seriki is the title for kings in the Hausa state before the jihad. After the jihad, the kings were called emir. Do not forget I said that the Fulani took over the political leadership of northern Nigeria in the 19th century. Question 9. Nigerian Port Authority is an example of dash. Now, Nigerian Port Authority (NPA) was established to manage Nigerian seaports. Okay, so they are responsible for managing and regulating port operation and the activities of maritime. Okay, so unlike civil service and public service, which deals with government administration, NPA, Nigerian Port Authority, PHCN, NNPC are public corporations and they operate like businesses, but they are just controlled and owned by the government. Question 10. An agent in which the state undertakes direct political socialization is the dash. So tell me, what do they teach in schools? Social studies, civic education, government. Now, this subject helps students to understand policies and governance. The school curriculum is created by the government, specifically NERDC, and it is approved by the Federal Ministry of Education. So schools are direct agents of political socialization. Now, other options like church, peer groups, mass media can contribute to political socialization, but they are not controlled by the state, unlike schools. So schools play a direct role in shaping our political knowledge and attitude. Question 11. The Nigerian youth movement pursued its objective through the use of dash. Now, the Nigerian youth movement was founded in 1934 and it played a significant role in the fight for self-governance from the British colonial rule. Now, the Nigerian Youth Movement was a nationalist political organization that used newspaper to spread its nationalist idea and to criticize the British colonial rule. Question 12. Formation of political parties in Nigeria is one of the features of dash. The Clifford Constitution of 1922 was the first to create a political atmosphere where political parties could be formed. Do not forget that the Richard Constitution of 1946 focused on regionalism, though it limited Nigerian participation. The Macpherson Constitution of 1951 increased Nigerian representation in government, while Middleton Constitution of 1954 introduced federalism. But one of the merits of the 1922 Constitution, which is the Clifford Constitution, was the formation of political parties in Lagos and Calabar. For example, the NNDP by Abba Macaulay. Now, this political party inspired the nationalist movement in Nigeria. Question 13. So, the commander of the army under the Hausa/Fulani pre-colonial administration was dash. So, the Hausa/Fulani pre-colonial administration had the emir as the traditional ruler, who had other officials assisting him. Some of them include one Waziri, who was the prime minister. We had Galadima, who was in charge of the capital, Madawaki, the commander of the army. We have Maji, who was in charge of the treasury, Dogari, the head of the police. Question 14. The rationale behind the adoption of a federal system of government in Nigeria is to dash. Now, Nigeria has over 250 ethnic groups with different languages, different traditions, and different religions. How could they have a unified country amidst such diversity? Federalism was the answer. So the major factor responsible for Nigerian federalism was cultural diversity. So federalism can grant some autonomy, but the main goal is to create unity despite the differences. Federalism divides power between the central and the state, but that's a feature of federalism. It cannot be regarded as the reason behind its adoption. And federalism in itself does not create more states. Question 15. Lawyers recruited into the civil service belongs to dash. Now, the civil service is a department under the executive arm of government, so they help to implement policies. Now, some of the structures in the civil service include the administrative class, which is regarded as the highest class, and there you have the director generals. The next is the professional class, where you have professionals like doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, and so on. The next is the executive class, where you have senior executive, assistant executive, and all of that. The next is the clerical class, where you have clerical staffs, you have typists, and so on. Then the last is the auxiliary class, where you have cleaners, gardeners, drivers, and so on. Question 16. A naturalized citizen can lose his citizenship if found guilty of dash. Now, loitering is not a serious offense and cannot carry the consequences as severe as losing citizenship. Electoral violence is a serious offense, but it is punished under electoral laws and it cannot attract, revoking your citizenship. Evading taxes is an illegal offense and it's a serious one, but then the penalties would include fines or imprisonment. It is not enough to lose your citizenship. But treason is betrayal, and it can happen if you help an enemy during wartime or you try to overthrow a government. Okay, and if found guilty, you can lose your citizenship. Question 17. Shehu Shagari won the 1979 presidential election under dash. The National Party of Nigeria was prominent at that time with strong support in the northern part of Nigeria, and it had Shehu Shagari as its presidential candidate, who defeated Obafemi Awolowo of UPN, Nnamdi Azikiwe of NPP, Waziri Ibrahim of GNPP, and Aminu Kano of PRP in the 1979 election. Question 18. A form of government where the powers of the state is determined by the citizen is dash. In a democratic system of government, power is determined by the people, by the citizens. That is why it is often described as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Whereas monarchy is where the king or queen rules, aristocracy is where the noble or the wealthy rules, while autocracy is where one person holds absolute power like a dictator and is not accountable to anyone. Question 19. As a non-aligned state, Nigeria attended the second meeting of the non-aligned movement that took place in Cairo, Egypt in dash. So the non-aligned movement was established to keep countries neutral during the Cold War. So that means refusing to align with either the United States or Soviet Union. Now, the first non-aligned movement summit was held in 1961 in Yugoslavia, and Nigeria did not participate because it was still forming its foreign policy. By the second time, which was held in 1963 in Egypt, Nigeria fully engaged and attended the meeting. Question 20. The power of prerogative of mercy rests with the dash. In the British monarchy, the king or the queen had the power to pardon criminals, and reduce their punishment as an act of grace. Now, this is called the prerogative of mercy. Now, this principle was later adopted even in the Nigerian constitution. Now, here's how it works in Nigeria. At the federal level, the president has the power to pardon criminals, under the section 175 of the 1995 Constitution. At the state level, the governors have the power to pardon criminals within their states, under the section 212 of the 1999 Constitution. So overall, this power rests within the executive arm of government. The legislative and the National Assembly make laws, but they do not handle the prerogative of mercy. The judiciary interpret laws, punish offenders, but they do not have the power to grant pardon or mercy. So guys, we've concluded today's tutorial and I'm sure you've learned so much, right? Thank you for staying tuned. Thank you for trusting me on this journey. And do not forget to like my video, subscribe as well if you enjoyed my tutorials, if you enjoyed my teachings, if you enjoyed my explanations. Till I see you in my next video. Bye for now.